Be me, Constance. 28. Been lifting seriously for 3 years now. Absolutely love my local gym. Go there religiously every weekday at 6 a.m. Work in corporate consulting, constantly having to educate my male colleagues about unconscious bias. Anyway, at the gym I've noticed something really concerning lately. The men there never make eye contact with me. Like, ever. When I'm doing my deadlifts or squats, they just look right through me. Initially thought maybe they were just focused on their workouts, but it's been months now, and it's becoming really obvious. Started keeping a mental tally, 0 meaningful eye contact from any of the regular guys. There's this group of about 8 men who are always there during my morning sessions. Santiago, the guy who always does bicep curls by the mirror. Jake, who spends way too much time on the bench press. Ryan, the tall one who thinks he's hot stuff doing pull-ups. Bunch of others whose names I don't know but recognize their faces. None of them ever acknowledge my presence. It's like I'm invisible to them. Obviously, this is a pattern of exclusionary behavior. Probably stems from their discomfort with strong women in traditionally male spaces. Decide I need to start addressing this toxic gym culture head on. Can't just let this slide. Silence is complicity. Start making more effort to engage with them during rest periods. Walk over to Santiago one morning while he's between sets. Hey, I couldn't help but notice you're doing really high reps on those curls. Did you know that muscle hypertrophy research shows lower rep ranges are actually more effective for strength gains? He just nods and puts his headphones back in. Typical male response. Can't handle being educated by a woman. Try again with Jake a few days later. Notice he's benching without a spotter, which is obviously dangerous. Excuse me, that's really not safe to be lifting heavy without someone watching. Also, I've read that the bench press actually reinforces harmful masculine stereotypes about upper body dominance. Have you considered incorporating more functional movement patterns that don't privilege traditional male muscle groups? He just says, thanks for the tip, and moves to a different station, clearly uncomfortable with having his workout choices questioned. This is exactly the kind of fragile masculinity that perpetuates gym intimidation. Decide to be more systematic about this. Start approaching different guys each week with helpful observations. Point out to Ryan that his pull-up form could be improved and that chin-ups are actually more effective. Mention to another guy that his protein shake probably contains dairy, which contributes to industrial agriculture's exploitation of female animals. Suggest to the bearded guy doing squats that he should consider how the squat rack's design assumes male proportions and excludes women with different body geometries. Try to explain to the older gentleman on the yes sir, elliptical, how cardio equipment marketing targets women's insecurities about body image. Every single time, they just give me polite responses and then immediately disengage. It's becoming really obvious that there's an organized pattern of dismissal here. They're clearly threatened by my presence and knowledge, probably feel emasculated by a woman who knows more about proper form and exercise science than they do. Start documenting these interactions mentally. Need to build a case study about how women are systematically excluded from male-dominated fitness spaces. Begin timing their responses. Average conversation length is maybe 30 seconds before they find an excuse to leave. Notice they'll chat with each other for 10, 15 minutes at a time. But with me, barely half a minute before they're suddenly very busy. This is textbook exclusionary behavior. Decide to escalate my approach. Start incorporating more educational content into my interactions. Explain to Santiago how his bicep-focused routine perpetuates aesthetic standards that objectify both men and women. Tell Jake about studies showing that traditional bench pressing reinforces gender hierarchies in athletic performance. Inform Ryan that pull-ups are actually a really problematic exercise because they privilege people with certain arm lengths and exclude others. Point out to the group doing deadlifts that the exercise name itself contains violent imagery that normalizes aggression. Suggest they consider renaming it to something more inclusive like floor lifts or ground raises. Their reactions are getting more obviously dismissive. Eye rolls, heavy sighs, immediate topic changes. Classic defensive responses when confronted with uncomfortable truths. Realize I need to address this more directly. Start calling out their avoidance behaviors in real time. I notice you looked away when I started talking about exercise inclusivity. Are you uncomfortable discussing how gym culture excludes marginalized bodies? Your body language suggests you're not really listening to what I'm saying. Responses get even more curt. They start actively avoiding the areas where I'm working out. If I'm at the free weights, they'll suddenly all migrate to the machines. If I move to machines, they head back to free weights. It's like a coordinated dance of avoidance. This is getting really hurtful, honestly. I'm just trying to create a more inclusive environment for everyone. Why are they so resistant to having their perspectives challenged? Start feeling genuinely isolated during my workouts. Used to love the community energy of the morning crowd. Now it feels like I'm working out in a bubble. They'll have these animated conversations right next to me, but never include me. Talking about their weekends, their jobs, sports, whatever. The second I try to join in, the conversation dies. Or they'll suddenly remember they need to be somewhere else. It's really wearing me down emotionally. Start questioning whether I should switch to a different gym. But no, that would be letting them win. This is exactly how women get pushed out of spaces that should belong to everyone. Decide I need to document this more formally. Start taking notes on my phone after each interaction. Detailed records of who said what, their body language, duration of conversations. Building evidence of systematic exclusion. Maybe I can present this to gym management, or use it as a case study for broader discussions about workplace and social dynamics. This goes on for weeks. Every morning, same pattern. I try to engage, they shut down. I offer insights, they dismiss me. I attempt to build community, they exclude me. Starting to feel really personally attacked by all this. Like I know I'm knowledgeable about fitness. I've read extensively about exercise science, nutrition, body mechanics. I'm genuinely trying to help them optimize their routines, but they act like my input is worthless. Probably threatened by the fact that I deadlift more than some of them. Toxic masculinity can't handle being outperformed by a woman. One morning, I decide to try a different approach. Instead of offering unsolicited advice, I'll just try casual conversation, wait for a natural opening, and jump in. Santiago and Jake are talking about some movie they saw. I walk over during my rest period. Oh, I saw that one too. Did you notice how it completely failed the Bechdel test? Like, there were maybe 2 named female characters, and they only talked about men. It's a perfect example of how Hollywood perpetuates male-centric narratives. They both just stare at me for a second. Then Santiago says, huh, and Jake says, interesting. Conversation immediately shifts to something else. They start talking about weekend plans, completely ignoring my presence. I'm standing right there, and they're acting like I disappeared. Feel my face getting hot with embarrassment and anger. This is so blatantly exclusionary. I can't even believe it. Storm off to finish my workout. Spend the rest of the session fuming about their behavior. This has been going on for months now. I've tried everything. Educational approaches, casual conversation, direct engagement. Nothing works. They've clearly decided they want nothing to do with me. It's affecting my entire gym experience. Used to look forward to my morning workouts. Now I dread the social dynamics. Constantly walking on eggshells, trying to figure out how to break through their wall of dismissal. Start having imaginary arguments with them in my head during sets. Planning out what I'll say next time, how I'll call out their behavior. Rehearsing responses to their inevitable deflections. This is consuming way too much mental energy, but I can't just let it go. This is bigger than just me. It's about women's place in fitness culture. If I don't speak up, who will? Decide to try one more direct approach, going to explicitly address the elephant in the room. Next morning, I walk straight up to their little group by the bench press. They're all standing around chatting before starting their workouts. Hey guys, can I talk to you all for a second? They look uncomfortable, but don't leave. I've been coming here for months now, and I've noticed that you never really include me in conversations. I'm wondering if there's something I've done that made you all decide to exclude me from the social dynamic here. Because it's starting to feel pretty unwelcoming. Long, awkward silence. Ryan finally speaks up. We're not excluding you, we just have different interests. Different interests? We all work out here. We obviously share at least one interest. Jake jumps in. Look, we're just here to lift weights, not really looking for deep conversations. But you guys talk to each other constantly. I've seen you having long discussions about all kinds of topics. Another uncomfortable silence. Santiago clears his throat. Maybe we just have different conversation styles. This is such obvious gaslighting. They're making me feel crazy for noticing their obvious pattern of exclusion. Different conversation styles? What does that even mean? Ryan. Look, no offense, but sometimes your input can be kind of intense. Intense how? Jake. You analyze everything. Can't we just work out without turning it into a sociology lesson? Feeling my blood pressure rising. So you're saying that because I'm educated and thoughtful about these issues, you've decided to shut me out? This is exactly the kind of anti-intellectual bias that keeps women marginalized. They're all looking at each other with these knowing expressions, like they've had conversations about me behind my back, which obviously they have. Ryan. It's not about being educated, it's just, we come here to decompress, not to be lectured about. stuff. Lectured, I'm trying to have meaningful conversations about our shared interests. Santiago, right, but when I'm doing bicep curls, I don't really want to hear about how they perpetuate masculine stereotypes. I just want to do my workout. They're completely missing the point. This is exactly how systemic exclusion works. They've normalized their own perspectives so completely that any challenge feels like an attack. So rather than engage with different viewpoints, you've all just decided to freeze me out. Jake, we're not freezing you out, we're just focusing on our workouts. This is so clearly coordinated. They've obviously discussed this among themselves, probably complained about me in their group chats, decided collectively that I'm too much trouble to deal with, feeling tears of frustration starting to build up. Not going to cry in front of them, that would just confirm their stereotypes. But this is really hurtful. I've been nothing but friendly and helpful, tried to contribute to their community, and they've systematically rejected every attempt. Take a deep breath, try to maintain composure. I think what's happening here is pretty clear. You're uncomfortable with a woman who challenges your assumptions. Rather than examining your own biases, you've chosen to exclude me. This is textbook toxic masculinity. Ryan sighs heavily. And this is exactly why we don't... Look, can we just agree to coexist here without making everything political? Everything is political. The fact that you don't see that is part of the problem. They're all looking at me like I'm completely unreasonable, which is infuriating because I'm the only one being honest about the dynamics here, Santiago. Maybe we should all just focus on our own workouts and leave it at that. They start dispersing before I can respond. Conversation over, dismissed again. Stand there feeling completely defeated. Walk back to my station with my head spinning. Can't focus on my remaining sets. Keep replaying the conversation, thinking of better responses. They made me sound like I'm the problem, like I'm some kind of crazy person for noticing their obvious exclusionary behavior. This is gaslighting 101. Make the victim question their own perceptions. Spend the rest of the week feeling angry and confused. Start second-guessing myself. Maybe I've been too intense with my observations. But no, that's exactly what they want me to think. I'm not going to internalize their discomfort with being challenged. Decide I need an outside perspective. Bring this up with my friend Sarah during our weekend coffee date. Explain the whole situation, the months of attempted engagement, their obvious avoidance. Sarah, am I crazy? Are they really excluding me? Or am I being paranoid? Sarah listens to the whole story, then gets this weird expression on her face. Constance, can I ask you something? When you're talking to these guys at the gym, what exactly are you saying to them? Run through some examples. The bicep curl. Conversation? The bench press safety issue. The pull-up form correction. Sarah's expression gets more concerned. And you're approaching them while they're working out to tell them these things? Well, yeah, I'm trying to be helpful. What's wrong with that? Constance, do you think maybe they just want to work out in peace? Can't believe Sarah is taking their side. So women should just stay silent when they see men doing things inefficiently or unsafely. That's not what I'm saying, but maybe unsolicited advice isn't always welcome. It's not unsolicited, we're all part of the same gym community. Sarah looks uncomfortable. Honey, if someone came up to me during my workout to critique my form or lecture me about the sociological implications of my exercise choices, I'd probably try to avoid them too. Feeling betrayed by Sarah's response. She's supposed to be supportive. Instead, she's validating their exclusionary behavior. So you think it's okay for them to systematically shut me out? I think maybe there's a misunderstanding about social boundaries. This conversation is making me feel worse, not better. Cut the coffee date short. Drive home feeling even more isolated. If Sarah doesn't get it, who will? Spend the weekend obsessing over this. Maybe I should switch gyms after all, but that feels like giving up. Monday morning. Decide to go back and try a completely different approach. Going to be purely observational. Not initiate any conversations, not offer any advice. Just work out and see what happens. Get to the gym, start my routine. The usual suspects are all there. Deliberately avoid making eye contact with any of them. Focus entirely on my own workout. About 20 minutes in, notice something. They're all much more relaxed, laughing and joking with each other, having animated conversations about sports, weekend plans, work stuff. The energy in the space is completely different. Suddenly realize I'm eavesdropping on their natural dynamic. This is what the gym atmosphere is like when I'm not trying to engage. It's actually really welcoming and friendly. They're supporting each other's lifts, sharing equipment politely, giving genuine form tips. Everything I've been trying to create, but they already have it, just not with me. Start feeling this sinking realization in my stomach. Maybe Sarah was right. Maybe I've been approaching this all wrong. Finish my workout in this weird, contemplative mood. Drive home replaying interactions from the past few months. My helpful observations about their exercise choices. My attempts to educate them about gender dynamics in fitness. My critiques of their conversation topics. Oh God. From their perspective, I've been the person who shows up and tells them they're doing everything wrong. Every single interaction has been me correcting or lecturing them. I thought I was being helpful and inclusive, but I've actually been incredibly condescending. Spend the day having this horrible epiphany about my behavior. All those times I approached them with research shows and did you know, the way I'd interrupt their conversations to point out problematic elements, my constant analysis and critique of their choices. No wonder they avoid eye contact. I've been exhausting to deal with, feel mortified thinking about it from their perspective. Some woman who shows up every morning to tell them their workouts are inefficient and their conversations are problematic. Tuesday morning, decide to test this theory. Go to the gym with a completely hands-off approach. Just smile and nod if we make eye contact. Don't approach anyone. Don't offer commentary. Focus entirely on my own routine. About halfway through my workout, something unprecedented happens. Santiago actually makes eye contact and nods hello. I just nod back. Don't try to start a conversation. A few minutes later, Jake asks if I'm done with a piece of equipment. Normal, polite interaction. No lecture. About equipment sharing or gym etiquette. Just, yeah, all yours thanks. It's the most natural exchange we've ever had, suddenly feeling like I'm seeing the whole situation clearly for the first time. They haven't been excluding me because I'm a woman. They've been avoiding me because I'm annoying. Because I've spent months treating them like they need my constant guidance and correction. Because I've turned every interaction into an opportunity to demonstrate my superior knowledge. Because I've been insufferable. Sit in my car after the workout feeling absolutely crushed. Not crushed by their behavior, but by the realization of my own. I've been so convinced that their avoidance was about gender bias. So certain that I was fighting some noble battle against toxic masculinity. When really, I was just being an obnoxious know-it-all. All those months of feeling victimized and excluded, when I was actually the one creating the hostile dynamic. They weren't threatened by my strength or knowledge. They were just trying to have peaceful workouts without being constantly analyzed and critiqued. Wednesday morning, overhear a conversation that confirms everything. Arrive a few minutes early, they don't notice me yet. Ryan is talking to Jake. It's been so much better lately, right? Jake. Oh yeah, so much more relaxed. Santiago. I was literally dreading coming here for a while. Ryan. I know, like walking on eggshells every morning. Jake. Couldn't even talk to each other without getting a lecture about problematic language or whatever. Santiago. I started coming at different times just to avoid the commentary. Ryan. Seems like she's figured out we just want to work out in peace. Jake. Thank God, I was about to switch gyms. They notice me coming over and the conversation stops, but I heard enough. They were literally considering changing their entire routines to avoid me. I made the gym so uncomfortable for them that they were planning escape strategies. And I thought they were the problem. Spend the rest of the workout fighting back tears, not tears of anger or frustration, tears of complete humiliation. I've been so wrong about everything. So convinced of my own righteousness that I couldn't see how my behavior was affecting others, thought I was educating and enlightening, when really I was just being a condescending pest. All those conversations where I felt dismissed and excluded, they were just trying to politely extract themselves from my lectures. The eye contact avoidance wasn't about intimidation, it was about hoping I wouldn't notice them and start another unwanted interaction, drive home feeling emotionally devastated, not just embarrassed, but genuinely heartbroken. I've spent months feeling like a victim of systematic exclusion, when I was actually the architect of my own isolation. Created exactly the dynamic I was complaining about. The worst part is realizing how patient they actually were. None of them ever told me to shut up or go away. They just quietly endured my constant commentary and gradually withdrew, tried to give me hints that I completely missed, or rather, misinterpreted as evidence of their bias, when really they were just trying to maintain some boundaries, spend the evening thinking about all the other areas of my life where this might be happening. How many conversations have I derailed with my need to educate and correct? How many people have learned to avoid engaging with me deeply? How often do I mistake people's politeness for agreement and their withdrawal for prejudice? This is devastating to realize at 28, that I might have been alienating people for years without realizing it, thinking I was fighting the good fight when really I was just being exhausting. Thursday morning, decide I need to somehow acknowledge this, not sure how to apologize without making it weird, but I can't just pretend this realization never happened. Spot Santiago between sets and walk. Over, heart pounding with nerves. Hey, can I say something quick? He looks wary, but nods. I've been thinking about our conversation the other day, and I realize I've been a lot. I thought I was being helpful, but I can see now that I was just being annoying. I'm sorry for making your workouts less enjoyable. He looks genuinely surprised. Oh, thanks for saying that. I mean, you weren't terrible or anything. Just, yeah, a lot. I appreciate you acknowledging it. Short conversation, but it feels like a huge weight off my shoulders. Have similar brief exchanges with Jake and Ryan over the next few days. Not groveling or making it a big dramatic thing. Just simple acknowledgements that I was out of line. They're all surprisingly gracious about it. Seem relieved that I figured it out on my own. Slowly start rebuilding a normal dynamic with the morning crowd. Asking to work in on equipment instead of lecturing about sharing protocols. Saying good morning instead of launching into observations about their routines. Keeping conversations light and reciprocal instead of turning them into teaching moments. It's actually much more enjoyable. Who knew that gym small talk could be pleasant when it's not loaded with unsolicited analysis? Few weeks later, having a completely normal conversation with Jake about weekend plans. He mentions going hiking and I just say, that sounds fun, instead of launching into a discussion about how outdoor recreation marketing targets different demographics. Santiago asks my opinion on a new protein powder, and I give actual practical feedback instead of a lecture about supplement industry regulation. Ryan compliments my deadlift form, and I just say thanks instead of explaining the biomechanical principles behind proper technique. These interactions feel so much more natural and genuine. Realize I've been missing out on actual human connection because I was so focused on being right. Thought being smart meant constantly demonstrating my intelligence. When really intelligence includes knowing when to just be a normal person. Still cringe thinking about those months of unwanted commentary, but grateful I figured it out before I completely burned those bridges. Learned a really humbling lesson about the difference between being knowledgeable and being insufferable. Turns out people avoid eye contact when they're trying not to encourage someone who makes every interaction exhausting, not because they're threatened or biased, just because they want to work out in peace. Who could have predicted that?